This is CBC Here and Now.
An elderly man in Deer Lake says he loaned his RCMP neighbor $100,000. Now he wants it back.
It's crazy enough to give $100,000 away as a gift.
I'm Mariana Kelland, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
They see droppings, they're looking in their pencil case for their emergency granola bar, and it's been eaten, it's been chewed through in the lockers.
Rodents, leaks, and mold. Parents and politicians are speaking out about conditions at a CBS school.
We're live from the Barry Brown Center today, and we're about an hour away from puck drop. The Newfoundland Growlers taking on the Reading Royals. I'll have all the details coming up.
Thanks, Jeremy. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We've got all of those stories and more just ahead. But first, the temperature continues to rise in the crab industry. Another war of words erupted today. There's growing tension on the wharves, and some fishermen say it's time to start the long-delayed harvest. Here and Now's Terry Roberts has the latest.
Hopes were once again raised last night that the month-long tie-up in the crab industry may soon end. This post from the Fisheries Union, announcing what they said was a new offer from the Association of Seafood Producers, followed by the details a few hours later. License holders were offered a chance to vote on the proposal.
There was no tentative deal.
But once again, hope turned to confusion this morning.
There was a lot of misinformation and mischaracterization.
It was the union that put forth the deal, not producers, says Jeff Loader.
They presented some numbers to us. Then they went back to their committee and they issued a press release saying that ASP had made a counteroffer. That did not happen, and it's not true.
It's a very serious accusation against leadership of this union.
Greg Pretty snapped back this afternoon.
When we left there yesterday, we had a deal from ASP, and that's it.
Yet another breakdown in attempts to get the province's most lucrative fishery up and running, with the union accusing processors of interfering in their governance model.
They were voting on it. I understand now some people have stopped.
I will not be engaging in any dialogue with the FFAW in a way where that information is being misrepresented.
And more signs today that harvesters are deeply divided. Reports that boats were being prevented from leaving the dock in some ports, and that trucks carrying bait and ice were also blocked. Harvesters turning on harvesters.
They want to go to work, and they're fearing for their safety.
We're ready to go fishing now.
This fisherman is among those anxious to get back on the water. Lee Melindy is not happy about this year's price collapse, but says he also can't afford to leave 140,000 pounds of crab in the water.
We're looking at $300,000 or so. At a crew member's rate is $30,000. So can I afford to leave that much money in the water and not pay a crew? Time is coming that we're going to have to break down. I know lots of people don't want to hear that or whatever, whatnot, but to speak to the reality of it is you're going to have to do it once.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, thousands of jobs, all at stake.
To be sidetracked on this stuff today is absolutely ridiculous.
But crab plant owners remain fixated on the minimum price, saying they won't be buying at a loss this year.
We will listen to anything that comes back from the FFAW, but we will not be engaging for one more minute in a world where people are not laying out exactly what's happening.
Meanwhile, market experts are not expecting any notable increases in demand for crab. So after a few years of big profits, all sides are bracing for a hard landing, hoping to avoid complete disaster. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
To education now, the chorus of people calling for the Frank Roberts Junior High School building to be replaced is growing louder. Parents and politicians say the 54-year-old school has a number of problems, but perhaps the most alarming one is rodents. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
I mean, we've seen the rats with our own eyes. I've gotten so many pictures and video today of mice in traps.
Sabrina Green is a parent at Frank Roberts. She's posted and seen images like this on social media.
I have a video from the music room, and behind the radiator there's a dead mouse in a trap next to a child at a desk trying to do music class. It's not okay.
It's just beyond, and I don't want to be talking about this, trust me, I've got no time for a rat. I don't.
He'd rather not talk about rats, but Pettin says he's been forced to bring them up in the provincial legislature numerous times.
Pictures continue to surface on social media of furniture and school supplies chewed up by rats at Frank Roberts Junior High. Children are afraid to leave their lunch bags under their desks, and parents are threatening to keep their children home. I asked the minister, why are children being forced to go to school in such conditions?
It's really gross. It's very unsanitary.
The school district says it's doing whatever it can to control the rodents, but it also argues it's a problem for many.
Look, it's this time of the year, it is unfortunate, and I know it can be disconcerting to people. But, you know, a lot of buildings, unfortunately, get some mice that get in and rodents.
Green says rodents aren't the only problem. There's also been trouble with leaks and mold. She believes the solution is clear.
Listen, we need a completely new school. I won't see it, my daughter won't get to avail of it, but CBS, we're not getting any smaller. Frank Roberts isn't fixable at this point.
But the school district doesn't agree. Hall says the district has not made a request to have Frank Roberts Junior High replaced.
I guess the best way I can put it is we wouldn't put students and staff in a school we thought was unsafe.
Green says she's not criticizing school staff or programs, but she strongly believes people here and here should be doing more to provide children at Frank Roberts Junior High with a healthy, safe learning environment. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Staying with schools, parents and students at Menahek High School in Labrador City staged a protest today. They say there aren't enough teachers and conditions inside that school are unacceptable. Here and Now's Daryl Din has more.
These parents want the province to know what conditions are like inside this school.
I have 2 students in Menahek, and you know, when they come home and saying the ceiling is dripping on them sludge, I mean, that's pretty disgusting, and not to mention not healthy at all.
That's something they feel Scott Linehan should know about. The Assistant Deputy Minister responsible for K-12 education is in Labrador West visiting schools.
So ultimately the point of this rally was to get our voice heard, and to effectively, if we can get our voice heard, then I believe that we can have change. And again, this is about our youth and about our kids, so it's really important to get our words out there effectively and to the right people.
And it wasn't just the adults. Dozens of students staged a walkout as well.
The music room, there was a leak and the tiles broke, and all of the water running down was like dark brown. It was really gross, and even now they have new tiles up, but there's still stains in the music room where you can see that the dirty water was running.
I have siblings who are coming to the school in a few years, and I want to make sure they have the best opportunity to learn, and they can't do that if there's not enough teachers to teach. If our school is falling apart, I don't feel like they're going to get the best education, and I want what's best for them.
Linehan met with parents and invited the protest organizer inside to discuss concerns. He wouldn't comment on the state of the schools.
I would encourage you to contact our communications branch. So we have officials who speak on behalf of the department. So you contact our communications branch and they'll be happy to talk to you.
In a statement, the Department of Education said it hasn't been debriefed on the Deputy Minister's visit, but would provide further information at a later date. Wiseman, the organizer of the rally, says they discussed the need for maintenance staff. She says the school has hired 2 full-time and 1 part-time person to help slowly address the needs of the school. Daryl Din, CBC News, Labrador City.
And parents are demanding better access to childcare, and today they took that call to the House of Assembly. That's where the opposition presented a petition calling for more childcare spaces.
Petitions. The Honourable the Member of Conception Bay South. Here.
PCMHA Barry Pettin presented that petition, and he urged government to take immediate, urgent action to ensure childcare is just as accessible as it is affordable. A new report says there's only enough regulated childcare in Newfoundland and Labrador for 14% of children under 12. Parents who were at the legislature today have started a group called ABCs and ECEs. They're advocating to build capacity in the childcare system, and they also want to support early childhood educators.
And we are just a group of parents, mainly parents, but also others who have organized to try to bring to light that we need to make childcare more accessible in this province. We want it to be accessible to all children in Newfoundland and Labrador. We want to support dignified wages and working conditions of ECEs. We know we cannot expand childcare capacity without supporting the workers. And we're really here to make ourselves visible so that all policymakers on the floor of the House of Assembly see that parents are motivated, we are organized, we want our concerns to be listened to, and we want some transparency and accountability.
Education Minister John Haggie met with some of those parents before question period today. Now, he says the province created 480 new childcare spaces this year out of a target of 700. Haggie also said nearly 250 new early childhood educators are expected to graduate from College of the North Atlantic this spring. The minister also promised his department would create an online portal where parents can register for regulated childcare. Haggie says it'll help his department assess the demand for childcare services.
We have been in the process of acquiring a system for a parent portal, which we hope to get up and running in the not too distant future. So essentially what that will be a web page where parents can go and register their child at any age that they feel they want to, and see what is the local availability of childcare. And on the back end, we'll have a database so we can really properly assess demand. This is an off-the-shelf solution. We have the approval in the budget to do that, and it's underway kind of thing. So
there's no timeline on when that portal will be available. Meanwhile, the minister says it's estimated about 600 people with licenses to be ECEs have left the profession. Haggie says he's hoping a new wage grid that went into effect last month for the profession will lure some of those workers back.
Well, the weather's certainly improving for coastal areas of Labrador from that winter storm that was wreaking some havoc in some places, particularly Black Tickle. But for now, we're sitting under a ridge of high pressure, lovely bluebird sky out there for the most part. We do have some cooler air in and around the north coast of Labrador right now. And as we head through the night tonight and into tomorrow, we're looking at some cooler temperatures to start, but the temperatures will warm up. Right now, daytime highs were between 11 and about 13 degrees on the top of that, 14 in Terra Nova. We do have some cooler temperatures in and around, 2 degrees in Makovic at the moment and 12 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. But take a look at what's going to happen as we head through the day tomorrow. Big pocket of mild air up across parts of Labrador. Same thing for the island. That's going to stick around for the island as we head into Saturday. The weekend looking nice at this point. We do have some colder air moving right back in though for the end of the weekend, and the beginning of next week. We'll break all of that down for you coming up.
Tonight on CBC Investigates, we take you to Deer Lake, where a 93-year-old man wants his money back. He says he loaned his neighbor $100,000 in 2020, but that neighbor, who was an RCMP officer at the time, says it wasn't a loan, it was a gift. And now there's no money left. Here Now's Ariana Kelland has the story.
In a modern home in Deer Lake are reminders of years of marriage, now precious memories.
I miss her so much.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Charles Sams is 93 now. His mind wanders between grief for his late wife Camille and a disagreement between the two the last year she was alive.
She was upset because she didn't want me to lend them the money. But I said, we can trust him. So that's why I never got him to sign anything, because he was such a nice guy and friendly. I thought, you know, and he was going to church all the time. I figured, you know, he'll pay me back, but he didn't.
He is Jason Lush, a now former RCMP officer and Sam's current neighbor.
And he said he's going to have to sell his house or move, because I can't afford to make the payments. It's so much. So I said, well, I'll help you out.
So, in November 2020, Charles Sams wrote Jason Lush a check for $100,000. This is not in dispute. But when Sam says he asked for the money back, this was the response.
He said, I can't afford to pay you anything.
Constable Jason Lush filed a statement of defense in January. He says he was given the money as a gift. It was never meant to be repaid. And he says the money has been spent.
Lush says he turned the money down at first, but Sams persuaded him to take it. Lush says it was a thank you gift in appreciation for their friendship and the help he had given the elderly couple.
I never ever said it was a gift, you know. Who was crazy enough to give $100,000 away as a gift?
Lush turned down an interview request, but in a statement, his lawyer says his client is an upstanding member of his community and is innocent of any wrongdoing. Mark Mills wrote that Sams' statement that he is owed an unpaid debt is false and defamatory, and that Lush wants to proceed in court, but that Sams hasn't advanced the matter. The conflict between the two neighbors sparked action elsewhere. At the RCMP, 2 investigations were launched, one criminal, one internal. No criminal charges were laid because the RCMP says there was insufficient evidence. The force says the internal investigation into an alleged breach of the RCMP's code of conduct was completed, but Lush resigned before the matter was dealt with. Lush says it was a medical retirement unrelated to this situation. The province's top Mountie says police officers are held to high ethical standards. Quote, when those standards are not met, employees are dealt with through stringent processes in place to address the issues and to help ensure public confidence. Back on the West Coast, Charles Sams wasn't aware of any of that. He's now focused on one thing. He wants his money back.
I'm so upset all the time about it. Every night I can't sleep. Yeah. Night after night.
Ariana Kelland, CBC News, Deer Lake.
A man charged with first-degree murder won't get a private lawyer paid for by taxpayers. Kirk Keeping went to the province's top court, appealing a previous decision to reject his application. Now, the reasons are covered by a publication ban. Today, the Court of Appeal also turned him down. Keeping is accused of killing 28-year-old Chantel John more than 4 years ago. His trial has been delayed several times. It's now scheduled for next year. Politicians again pushed today to try to force Memorial University to sing the Ode to Newfoundland. The opposition asked if government plans to change the Provincial Anthem Act to force the university to sing it. The provincial government isn't ruling it out.
Always up for discussion, and there's always things that we can improve on. And in our department, that's certainly something that we will take into consideration.
We will ensure fast passage of that legislation. We bring it to this House next week. You'll have our word.
Memorial University says it's holding firm on plans not to sing the Ode this year. As CBC's Sarah Blackmore explains, it's raising concerns over political interference.
MUN's president says the decision on the Ode won't be up to politicians. He says that the university can make its own decisions about what happens at its own ceremonies.
The university has to follow through on its collegial governance processes. It does have a degree of autonomy. It's not part of the government.
Last October, Memorial University dropped the Ode to Newfoundland from their convocation ceremonies. People were upset. Now the university will rely on a committee to decide the future of the Ode. But at this convocation, it won't be sung.
The convocation is about students. It's about a celebration for students or of students and their graduating, their graduands who are crossing the stage. And so it's important that it represents them. It's not just about the university, it's not just about the province, it's about those students.
Yesterday at the House of Assembly, it was a rare occurrence. All politicians were singing the same tune. The tourism minister is one of many politicians who are pressuring the university to bring it back.
The reality is Memorial University has made a mistake here. Let's be clear about it. This is the anthem of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, along with the Ode to Labrador, Mr. Speaker, which the motion last year was very clear in. We didn't ask for somebody to exclude anybody. We actually asked them to include more, Mr. Speaker.
Memorial's Faculty Association doesn't think the university handled this issue well, but says direct government influence could be dangerous.
As soon as government interference is direct, then that has all kinds of knock-on consequences that are quite important. Depending on your point of view, this particular issue might seem like not such a big deal about government interference, but they're very quickly get into broader issues there that are really tangly.
Memorials Committee doesn't have a deadline to report back, meaning there will be no ode when convocation ceremonies start next week. Sarah Blackmore, CBC News, St. John's.
Shifting to sports now, the Newfoundland Growlers are back on home ice after winning 3 games against the Reading Royals in the North Division Finals. With the team up 3-1, they could close the series tonight, moving them one step closer to the Kelly Cup. Our very own Jeremy Eaton is down at the Mary Brown Centre for the game. So Jeremy, how's the team feeling heading into the game tonight?
Well, the team was feeling pretty good. They had a light shoot around at around 10 o'clock this morning, but they did have to fly in from Reading, so they were pretty relaxed, pretty loose. But I'm going to let the coach and one of the players tell you more about how they're feeling about the big game here tonight.
We've obviously put ourselves in a good spot. I think it's important when you're in these playoffs that you take it game by game. You know, that's a very big cliche that most people say when you're in these positions, but I do think it holds a lot of value. You know, obviously it's not over, and the other team's going to have a lot of fight in them. So you got to make sure that you show up tonight, and you know, when you're in these positions, you want to make sure you take care of business.
You know, I still feel like there's some unfinished business from last year. You know, I thought we had a good team last year, and fell short, but you know, it's not something I forget, and I don't think a lot of the guys that were here last year forget that. And you know, we're just looking forward to the opportunity to making that right.
Tyler Boland's season ended, and he's rejoined the team. What sort of difference does that make, or is that a big difference? Does it add a bit of an impact to have him back on the team?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. You know, I think you could make a case that he could be the best player in the league, if not top 3. So I think it's a positive if you can add somebody like that into your roster, especially in a lineup that has been playing extremely well already, and there's a lot of good players. You're just adding more to the mix, and now our depth is, you know, any forward that's in the lineup, even the guys that aren't in the lineup, very well should be, and most teams they would be. But yeah, it's a good problem to have for sure.
I'm really grateful for this opportunity to come home and get to continue playing this year, and I'm just, you know, just trying to help the team win, and I'm looking forward to hopefully the bit of a run we're going to go on.
It's a unique situation we find ourselves in, making a decision. Do you want to start 3 on the road, then 4 home, or your other option is start 3 at home and 3 on the road, or 4 on the road? You know, our philosophy on this is that if you do get to a game 7, I think you would much rather have home ice advantage if you can. So obviously we've done the job on the road. I don't think you expect to go 3-0. I think, you know, if you can get 2-1, you'd be really happy with that. And even if you're 1-2, you're still in a good position. But fortunate for us, we were able to win those 3 games. So looking forward to being able to play in front of our home crowd for sure.
So as Coach Eric Wellwood was saying, the team is up 3-0, so they're going to play tonight. If they win tonight, they clinch the North Division and move on to the conference finals. But the next, if this goes longer than tonight, all the games will be played here at the Mary Brown Centre, and it is starting to fill up here tonight. They're expecting about 3,500 people to take in the game tonight, and hopefully the home team wins and moves on to the next round of the playoffs. But in the meantime, all the players are focused on the game, all the fans are focused on having a little fun. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton at the Mary Brown Centre in St. John's.
Babies here at the House of Assembly today. Parents here making their voices heard, demanding affordable, accessible childcare. That story coming up a little later on Here and Now.
A whole lot of blue sky out there right now. There's a lot more where this came from. We'll talk about that and how warm it's going to get coming up.
Welcome back. With Mother's Day right around the corner, many will be picking up some sweet-smelling bouquets for this Sunday. But have you ever wondered where those flowers come from? We head over to Holland Nurseries to find out.
Hi, I'm John Frecker at Holland Nurseries in St. John's. We're coming up to the Mother's Day weekend. It's one of the busiest times of the year for everybody in the flower industry. And we're getting ready with flowers for the garden centre, as you can see around you. And we also have a lot of cut flowers for Mother's Day gifts to bring to people at their homes. When people are sending flowers out for occasions like Mother's Day or Valentine's, they sometimes don't realize where they come from. It's a very complex process. Flowers used to be grown here locally, but the range of flowers that could be grown was quite limited. That whole market has switched to equatorial countries like Ecuador and Colombia and Kenya and Ethiopia. And the international supply chain is really complex. It all comes into central ports like Miami and then gets distributed throughout North America. We then put that together and make bouquets to bring bright colors and joy to people on these special occasions. So now you know where these flowers come from, but just hope people remember the most important thing on an occasion like Mother's Day is to get flowers, something to show your appreciation on that very special occasion.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The absolute final deadline is midnight Friday, June 2nd. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, Ashley, it's nice to have you back after you spent yesterday in the air.
I did. Thank you. Yeah, I spent yesterday up in the air with the crew of the International Ice Patrol, which was lots of fun. So you might have seen me for a moment last night from the tarmac about to board their C-130 airplane. But I just wanted to give you a little taste of what it's like on board when hunting those icebergs. Look at that one over there. There I am in the cockpit of the plane where I spent most of the day in my glory, let's just say that, checking out sites like this towering iceberg floating down the Strait of Belle Isle, which was incredible. We did about 200-foot passes there. The International Ice Patrol spends lots of time flying the coast of Labrador, but yesterday we flew right across to the west coast of Newfoundland, then up through the strait, around the northern peninsula, and then back down the northeast coast to St. John's. And let me tell you, those waters are full of icebergs. We're going to have some great stories from the trip, lots of amazing pictures, and that is coming your way next week on Here and Now. You definitely do not want to miss it. It was spectacular.
It looks so incredible. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Another big deal happening, fires in Alberta. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we've been talking about this quite a bit, but some of the smoke from the wildfires is starting to show up on our satellite imagery. So I just kind of want to give you an idea of what's going on, particularly for Atlantic Canada. Let's take a look at that right there. So you can see that orange there is the smoke, definitely through the maritime provinces. We're seeing some smoke showing up a little bit up across Labrador and parts of the west coast. Now this is very high up in the atmosphere, and the reason why it's being carried all the way over here, you can see the majority of the smoke is coming from the northern portions of Alberta, but it's being carried by the jet stream. So you can really see that depicted here. And as we head through the next couple of days, that smoke is actually going to head towards Labrador, particularly as we get into the evening hours. It's actually an area of low pressure that's going to bring that with it and along a front. So expect to see that. If you do see some of that haziness in the atmosphere, that's exactly what that's from. And I mean, we're probably going to be talking about smoke, forest fire smoke, quite a bit over the next month or so, and then maybe even going into the summer. So certainly something that will be a story. So right now, other than that smoke, there's not a whole lot happening out there. We're sitting under a nice ridge of high pressure that is keeping the weather calm for the most part. That area of low pressure is pulling that wind with it, especially for coastal areas of Labrador. Weather certainly improving there as well. But as we head through the next 24 hours, this ridge of high pressure really going to strengthen. Now it's bringing some beautiful temperatures, or allowing the temperatures to warm up quite nicely. 12 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 13 in Lab City, but staying cool along the coast at the moment, around 2 degrees. For those of you along coastal areas of Labrador. Otherwise, those temperatures 4, 5, 6 degrees along the northeast coast, reaching 10 in St. John's today, and or 10 right now, I should say, and it's sitting at 13 in Gander at the moment. So not a whole lot on the radar, but we still can see that sea ice. Now, with these winds that we've been seeing, these southerly winds, it is going to push that ice further offshore. And that does look like that will be really the story as we head through the next couple of days as we continue to see this southerly trend. As far as what's going to happen tonight, that ridge of high pressure is going to keep things beautiful through the overnight tonight. We may see some cloud cover, though, partly cloudy skies roll through as we head through the overnight. But for the most part, generally cool temperatures. Again, that onshore flow along the south coast. And then a few flurries, certainly possible, flurries or showers, certainly possible for northern areas of Labrador as we see our next system start to move in. But temperatures are going to be cool tonight. So generally into the minus single digits, we may see temperatures dipping a little cooler than what's here. But for the, most of us, we're going to be seeing somewhere between minus 3 and 4 to about minus 8 or 9 overnight. Now along the south coast and the Avalon, temperatures should stay in and around the 0 degree mark and maybe a degree or 2 above. But tomorrow, lots of sunshine in store. It is going to be an absolutely beautiful day. Still looking at some morning flurries, certainly possible up across the coastal areas of Labrador. The clouds will be on the increase for you. You may see a few showers right down towards the southeast, but we're going to pay attention to this system that's moving through a little trough. That could bring some showers, likely not super heavy showers, but enough to wet the pavement, that's for sure. And it's going to move towards central areas of Labrador as we head into the evening and overnight. As you can see, there's not a whole lot to talk about across the island. Lots of bluebird skies, it looks like, through the afternoon. Now, the other thing with this, though, is the risk. We may hear a few rumbles of thunder for Lab West, but overall, just some rain through the day. Temperatures tomorrow, beautiful, 13 to 17 degrees for most of us. If you are in onshore flow, your temperatures will be a bit cooler than I'm showing 13 for St. John's, but again, closer to the coast, those temperatures will be a bit cooler. Same thing along the northern peninsula. And then hot spot tomorrow, Happy Valley Goose Bay, 20 degrees will be your daytime high. We're looking at about 15 in Lab City before you see those thunderstorms roll through. And when you do, that temperature will certainly drop. Enjoy this temperature because it's going to drop as we head through to the weekend. I'll get into the details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Emergency room closures have plagued many communities across the province. Hundreds of people recently protested the ongoing closure in Harbour Breton. So what areas have been hit hardest and what options are there for those experiencing a medical emergency? Reporter Daryl Roberts breaks it all down.
It's been a year. Emergency room closures have been in the news. So where are we now? CBC News has been tracking emergency room closures in Newfoundland and Labrador. In 2023 alone, more than 500 days of emergency room closures have been seen in this province. Eastern and central Newfoundland have been hit the hardest. The emergency rooms in St. Lawrence and Whitburn haven't been open all year, and even a day of closures in some communities can have tragic consequences. Say you live in Harbour Breton, a community on Newfoundland's south coast, and the emergency room is closed. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, you'll have to travel to the next closest emergency room in Grand Falls, Windsor, 225 kilometers away, or 2.5-hour drive. CBC News has spoken to families who believe that their loved ones would be alive if the emergency room in their community had been open. Since the beginning of the crisis, the message from the provincial government has been the same: recruitment and retention. But with a global shortage of healthcare workers, the province has competition, and if it wants to attract these workers, it has to pay up.
Babies here at the House of Assembly today, parents here making their voices heard, demanding affordable, accessible childcare. That story coming up a little later on Here and Now.
Welcome back. About a dozen parents and their children, who you saw a little earlier, were at the House of Assembly today. They're part of a group called ABCs and ECEs. The opposition today presented a petition on their behalf. Together, they're demanding better access to childcare and better working conditions for childhood educators. Their call comes on the heels of a recent report showing there's only enough regulated childcare in this province for 14% of children under 12. Here's what some of those parents had to say about their experiences.
We moved back to Newfoundland about a year and a half ago from Ontario to raise our family at home, and we've struggled finding childcare ever since. We did have a home daycare, but she was pregnant, so she went on maternity leave. We have not been able to find daycare ever since. My husband had to quit his job and stay home with our little boy, and I unfortunately had to give up working in the health science center as a nurse and start travel nursing to supplement both of our incomes. So I'm not home. I'm pregnant again, so we've been away from each other. It's been really terrible, but it's the only way that we can pay our mortgage.
And you were a nurse. Healthcare workers desperately needed in this province. It seems like a couple of issues wrapped up in one here now that you're working as a travel nurse. What is the impact on your family when you have to make some of these decisions?
It's been really difficult. It's been really difficult for my husband, who is a very skilled carpenter, cabinet maker, well respected in his trade. He has had to stop working for the first time in his entire life and be home full time. I don't get to spend time with my baby. You know, I have to drive and go away to work in order to even put food on our table. So it's kind of really crappy, especially when we're so short here. I love my job in Health Science Emerge. It's my home. And I've had to leave that. Originally I've had to give up a full-time permanent job, which we are desperate for, to go casual to try to accommodate the childcare. And then when that wasn't working anymore, then we had to completely do another 180, and it uprooted our entire family life.
And you're expecting again what's going to happen now when the baby comes?
Well, it's come to the point where we're actually flying my husband's parents from India to help provide a little bit of relief for us to possibly wait it out until we can finally get a daycare spot.
What have you done to try to find daycare?
We have, I am on every Facebook group, I have sent every message, I am on wait list, from Seal Cove to Paradise for every registered daycare that there is. So far we have not received one call in about a year and 2 or 3 months.
So we're a group of parents, grandparents who are just concerned about the lack of availability of childcare in our province. Certainly we think the government has done a great step forward by making it very affordable, and so $10 a day daycare has been a huge improvement for us. But we'd really like to see all children in Newfoundland and Labrador have access to good quality childcare.
When it comes to finding childcare, what are the biggest barriers that parents are seeing?
So it's just the lack of availability. So there's wait lists, we saw a report released just yesterday showing very few spaces, so around 8,000 spaces in Newfoundland and Labrador for children under the age of 12. The population in Newfoundland and Labrador is about 57,000 children under the age of 12, so we just have a huge mismatch in terms of what's available and the number of children we have.
And what does that mean for parents at the end of the day, because there is just a lack of available space?
Unfortunately, it means that parents are having to make tough decisions. In a lot of cases, people we know are having one parent stay at home. In this economy, it's very tough to live on a single income, especially with children. We see grandparents who are having to step in, and these are people who, have worked their careers, have raised their children, and now having to do full-time childcare, which is difficult for them as well, right? And I think most importantly, what I'd like the public to understand is that when we don't have parents that can go back to work, we have things like labor shortages in our province, which we have, right? It really impacts the whole province.
And I understand that a petition is being presented here in the House today. What would you like to see happen after that's presented?
I'd really love the government to say that, yes, we have an issue and we want to work with you. So I'd love for them to say, hey, let's get together. What are the solutions we can come up with? Parents, daycare operators, ECEs. I'm sure there are things that we can do in the interim that'll help us out of this crisis.
And, in talking to the province, they're probably going to say that, we've added more seats to the class over at Kona to graduate more ECEs. But when you hear stuff like that, is that enough?
Unfortunately, I think it is great work, but unfortunately, I don't think it's enough. So, we talked about 700 additional childcare spaces. which only moves the needle just slightly. Like, we're talking about thousands and thousands of children who don't have access to childcare. So $700 is a great first step, but it's really just a first step.
Welcome back to Here and Now. The Cancer Care Foundation received a $250,000 donation from Newfoundland Power and its employees today. The money will go towards building a new chemotherapy unit at the Dr. H. Bliss Murphy Cancer Center. Cancer patient Pam Brown was one of the speakers at the event. She described her personal battle with cancer.
I was diagnosed back in November. I went to see my dentist, and she noticed a spot on my tongue, and she asked if she could send it off to a colleague. The oral pathologist that she sent it off to, I saw early in November, and she took a biopsy, and they called me on the morning of November 26th. Where she called with the call that nobody ever wants to get. The results of your biopsy are in, and we're very sorry to tell you that you have cancer. I mean, everybody knows somebody who's had cancer, and you see people ring the bell, but you don't really understand how much that ceremony means, that milestone means. It's not until you're standing under the bell, barely standing, blistered and burned, unable to speak, barely able to stand, unable to eat, barely able to swallow, that you realize how powerful that ceremony is.
Staying in St. John's, there's a new music room at the Daffodil Place. It's referred to as a home away for home for people impacted by cancer. Lily's Music Room officially opened this afternoon.
And the very first performer in Lily's Music Room will be none other than herself.
The room was opened in honor of Lily Delaney. It's filled with instruments cancer patients and their families can play. It's also a space for music therapy and a venue for local performers to come in and entertain those who are staying at the center. Lily's Music Room is the final project for Lilies for Lily. That was a campaign that raised close to $500,000 for various charities over the course of 10 years. Lily's son, Gord Delaney, says the musical space is the perfect way to honor his mother because she was a born entertainer who loved to sing. He says whether people were listening or not.
My mother was 53 when she passed away, and her story wasn't finished, so I had to continue her story. I needed to make sure she touched people, that I remembered her, that everyone remembered her for many years to come. We're 23 years later since she's passed. Lilies for Lily has come to an end, but I will never stop talking about her to myself, to whoever will listen, and I know she was singing along with us every note today.
Welcome back. Well, we've got a nice sunny day today. Tomorrow also
beautiful.
Beautiful. The weekend.
It'll start beautiful. Let's say that. That's for sure. But we do have some showers that will work their way in as we head through Saturday. Let's take a look at the future tracker just to time that out for you. So there's that front there. That's the one on Friday or tomorrow that is going to bring the chance of some, a few rumbles of thunder for Lab West as we head into late afternoon, early evening. Then the clouds will be on the increase as we head through the day on Saturday across the island. It'll bring some showers as we head towards the evening hours for the southwest. Now, most of Saturday will actually be fairly nice for most areas. In behind this, we do have some colder air, so temperatures are going to be a bit cooler for areas of Lab West as the day goes on. And then we're going to see that shower activity head towards central areas of Labrador and towards the coast into the evening hours. That will work its way north and east as we head through the day. But take a look at those temperatures, 10 to 16 degrees across the island on Saturday. Now along the south coast, southwest coast, temperatures a tad cooler, and that's because you are in onshore flow, which is typical this time of year. And there's that drop in temperatures I was talking about for Lab City. So down to 6 degrees. Now as you head towards the evening hours, there is a chance you'll see some snow in the mix through the night. And then for the rest of Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures into the teens, so 12, 13 degrees through the day. And again, northern Labrador, you're still looking at those cooler temperatures. That's going to move through fairly quickly through the overnight. We should see some clearing skies, hopefully, for the eastern portion of the island on the afternoon on Sunday. But generally, gray skies and showers will continue for the rest of the island across Labrador. Pretty much a similar story to what you're going to see on Saturday, with the chance of some flurries in the mix. Eventually, late day clearing looks likely for the northern portion of Labrador and Lab West through the afternoon hours on Sunday. Now, temperature-wise, we're talking about those temperatures sitting into the teens. That's where they should stay for low teens, albeit between 10 to about 12 or 13 degrees. Along the south coast, cooler than that, and then temperatures across Labrador between 3 and 5 degrees. Now, long-range forecast still showing teens in the forecast. That's good news as we see that sunshine for Monday and Tuesday for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Now, for the central and western portion of the island, it looks like we'll stay a bit gray, not seeing really the sunshine until we get into Tuesday, it looks like, for western Newfoundland. But your daytime highs, pretty nice, 12 to 15 or 16 degrees through the day, which is nice. Then for eastern Labrador, again, flurries certainly possible Sunday, Monday, and the overnight as you see your temperatures dipping into the minus single digits. But by Tuesday, we should return to some quiet weather, 8 degrees, and then generally sitting between 3 and 6 across western Labrador. So get out and enjoy the sunshine for a little bit tomorrow morning and those temperatures in the teens. Now, just before we leave you, a starry night sky. Isn't that a beautiful shot there?
How nice is that?
I love that. Sometimes when we get those night skies, we're typically seeing the northern lights in them, but this one was in Killamore. Thank you to Bob for that. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to send to us, you can send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
It's always so nice to see the stars like that. Too much light pollution in here sometimes to have such a beautiful, clear vision. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on Here and Now tonight. That's all for tonight. Good night.
Good night.